Dun. There we go. Dun. Alright, what are we doing for a Monday? Let's... maybe draw coffee. Let's see, let's just look for a pose. This one's not bad, we can use this. Alright. I'm gonna draw coffee for this stream. Not sure if it'll bleed into tonight's stream, but gonna start with that. Just something easy to ease my way into the week. Depending on what I do in between, will probably decide the rest of the day. Good morning, everyone. Or morning for me, at least. Coffee is the woman that looks like blueberry jam. Or at least a similar, or is the species that blueberry jam is mimicking. Yeah, let's give her a different expression. Yes, the goth one. Actually, I could do better. I mean, it's just a name. Her name shouldn't represent what she looks like. With that said, the other Creamfield characters beg to differ. They're like, sure. That sounds good. Oh, the tree star. Let's slow this down a bit. I could see Coffee working in the same store as Becky, but they have like different shifts. So like maybe very rarely would they meet each other. Well, Becky is kind of dual because she's like species that are both, you know, daytime and nighttime. I can see Coffee not being a morning person. Good morning. Yeah, if they did have the same shift, they would just be talking shit on people. Weekend was alright. Mostly working on collection stuff. That reminds me, I still need to do the slice of life stuff. I'll probably work on that after the stream, since at least one of them I want to use a character that's a bit on the mature side. But yeah, pretty much just doing the same things I always do. Saw people playing the Secret of the Mimic game. Clean my glasses and messing with me. I knew you guys. Someone was gonna say try to take over the world, and the answer is yes. Hold on, let me put on my glasses. I can't see that. Last picture that was Mom Mercy. She looks like sneaking food. Definitely was. Yeah, she's sneaking snacks. Honestly, I think that was definitely one of the better FNAF games. I think the only thing I have a gripe with of it is how it's setting up the other games. Because depending on where they go with it, it's gonna do, because assuming they don't retcon Security Breach / Ruin, depending on where they go with it, might mess a lot of things up. Because right now, there's at least 2 ways I can see it affecting the other games. Because right now they're still iffy about if the first 7 games are like fully canon or not. Because when Help Wanted came out, they said that the original games, only like bits and pieces of them are canon, which is already its own messed up lore at that point. But depending on where they go from here and how they affect the other games, because this is, but depending on where they go with it, it feels like either it's implying that the animatronics from the first game aren't affected by supernatural shit. It's all just like a corrupted AI thing. Or they could be setting up for like, oh, whatever happens in the future, it's the Mimic doing shit. And I'm just like, now I'm feeling less and less invested in the Mimic, because Secret of the Mimic kind of gives you everything you want about the Mimic, and anything after that just feels like a downgrade, or it's going to feel like a downgrade depending on how they handle it. So that's my personal thoughts on it so far. I mean, we could always get like DLC for this game that could do something more, possibly help it or something. But yeah, that's just something that I'm not exactly worried about necessarily, but it's just something to be cautious about, I guess. Because it feels like that's been like the case for a good while now for FNAF, like ever since like Sister Location, where it became less about, you know, a haunted pizzeria to, what's the best way to put it, to like scientific horror metal that can, I guess, well, at first it was like capture spirits, but then it was like, no, it's not that, it's absorbs anger and rage and stuff. And then it's like, wait, how about rogue AI? And I'm like, it was really simple with just ghosts. Been liking Poppy Playtime overall. Poppy Playtime is interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with it for the next chapter, because it could be because it's like one of those make or break moments, because they're getting to the point where they're getting to like the main villain, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. Alright, so how do I want to do this? I hate when those kind of stories focus only on setup for future installments instead of giving no fuck. Depends on how they handle it. Yeah, hello. Yeah, I had a good weekend. Thank you. Yeah, like, setting up for the now definitely feels like a better way to go, because if a sequel would happen, there should be enough breadcrumbs to kind of leave it there without having to specifically tell you that there's going to be a sequel. Although in Secret of the Mimic's case, it's a prequel, so it kind of has to do that. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it's like, unless there's like a definite end, it'll feel like there's always going to be a setup for something else over and over and over until, you know, the well dries up, sort of thing. But yeah, I think Secret of the Mimic is good. I'm just weary of what it's trying to set up later. Because, like, it wasn't just like the Mimic stuff that was good. There was also like the context of like employee messages and what William and Henry were doing in the background. So there's a lot of good points in Secret of the Mimic. There was one other thing that I was confused about, and it's like the Mimic's whole gimmick is that it's supposed to be able to change its size and adapt to whatever costume it wears, and then take on the persona of the character that it's posing as. So that way, you know, you can save money on animatronics, and you can just have one that can play multiple roles, sort of thing. And that makes sense. The part that I'm a bit confused about is how is it able to possess animatronics that weren't designed to be worn? Because the character Jackie definitely falls into that category where it's just a giant jack-in-a-box, and the Mimic possesses it, but then you also have to take into account that the Jackie animatronic has incredibly long arms, and from what I've seen, the Mimic can't get that long, or can't do that. And so now I'm sitting there going like, wait, so does it like manipulate the circuitry inside of it? Or like, what did it do with the insides of it? Like, did it tear it all out and get inside? Because at one point you kind of see the Mimic's eyes inside of it, but then that part doesn't make sense. And then like, it was in the Jack-in-the-Box, and then it ripped itself out of the Jack-in-the-Box, and it's just crawling on the ground. So then I'm like, okay, so did it adjust itself to not have legs anymore, or to kind of fit that? It was like this whole giant question mark with that particular character. And then apparently it can survive molten metal, and I'm like, how the fuck strong is this thing? When RCMCU, nothing is self-contained anymore, everything is set up. And then, well, I mean, that's Marvel Comics in general. Like, if you're not a comics person, then that's something you're gonna have to get used to until there's like a definite end. At least with movies, there's a limit to how long they can pull that off because of live action actors. It'd be different if it was animated, which personally I think they should have went that route a long ass time ago. But that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, like, the Mimic just seems to be like really fucking powerful for no reason. Like, there's like a moment where it's able to lift a steel beam rather easily, but then struggles against a elevator. And I'm like, wait, so you can survive molten metal, you can lift a steel beam, you apparently can get, you know, having fallen debris on you and you'll survive that, but opening an elevator or smashing through an elevator's roof apparently is one of the most difficult things that the Mimic can do, which is further emphasized in Ruin, when it gets his arm clamped off, chasing Cassie. But then again, we don't even know if that's the same mimic at this point because of context from Secret of the Mimic, assuming that goes anywhere. So yeah, it's just one of those things where you gotta think about it for a moment. You're like, wait. It's like, how are you able to do this but not this? Or how are you able to do the whole possession thing for animatronics you weren't designed to possess? Like personality, like him mimicking words and speech and shit like that, and mannerisms, sure, I can let that slide. But taking over an animatronic that wasn't designed for the mimic to do, is what's confusing me. It's mostly just the long arms part, because it's like, how are you doing that? Because I could buy it like ripping out its circuitry and then getting inside, but then when you take the long arms into account, that's what throws me off. Nah, honestly, it's rather boring when you have the protagonist just be armed and trained in a scenario that makes no sense for them to be to do so. And sure, there's always going to be like a storyline. It's like, well, this character was ex-military. I was like, he's ex-military, but he's doing this, and they'll come up with some convoluted reason for why the character's taking like a low-end job or whatever. In the Mimic's case, or this game's case, the main character is a guy they've been running ragged, working on multiple shifts, and it's like, okay, we need to do one more shift, and the guy's like already exhausted. And all the shit that happens to him, he's just like completely unprepared for. And a lot of it's more, not exactly luck or happenstance, is just shit just kind of domino effects into how it works out for him, kinda, but not really. Yeah, exactly. Like Friday the 13th, you don't expect a lot of people like that to survive. And if they happen to survive, that just like boils down to pure luck. And when it comes to certain horror stories, what bothers me a lot of the time is where you have some kind of entity that's been around for like thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and people are struggling on just surviving it. But then you always have like some random person who somehow knows exactly how to defeat the creature, but yet did not do anything about it up until another person comes to them for help randomly because they just happen to be looked up on like someone's address book or some shit. And you're like, wait, so this person has just been sitting here with the answer for like 20, 30 years and didn't do jack shit until some random person shows up asking them questions and they just tell them the answer right there and then. And then suddenly this ancient entity that's been around for thousands of years is defeated by some jackass that's like 18 or some shit. So Stephen King's It. Kinda, yeah. It's just one of those things where you're just kind of like, wait a minute. Because that always bothered me. That's why I like the movie Sinister. At least the first one. I haven't seen the second one because I heard it was god-awful and I didn't want to like taint my opinion of the first movie. But the first movie was great because there was no right answer. You were just fucked. It's like, nope. Here's this entity, he's been around since God knows why. There's literally nothing you can do about it. Just enjoy the ride. Castle Evolution was fun. I like World Evolution. And have Coffee be like, "Oh, welcome to our store. Get the fuck out." It's jam for breakfast. Nope, that would be coffee. You're having coffee for breakfast. It's like, oh hey, welcome to whatever store I'm working at. You can get the fuck out now. It's like, what? But I'm here to buy. No, you're not. You can leave. Oh yeah, her thighs are way bigger than this. I'll have to adjust them in a bit. When drawing Jam or Coffee or any other similar character, first go-to answer, bigger. It's like something's not right, bigger. Personal lore, most of the time it's the context behind it. Like what got the character to that point or into that scenario. Usually it's that gets me into it. It's not so much the art itself, it's more of the context to it. I enjoy the plot. But only if the plot is actually good and not like shoehorned or something, I don't know, something that would pull me out of it. Which happens quite often, honestly. But most of the time it's really good. I also like when the world of the story or character or whatever takes it into consideration. Like it's not just it's not like reality warps to the character getting bigger or in whatever scenario they're in. Like whether it be weight gain or whatever, or gain superpowers or whatever the case may be. It's interesting when the world doesn't just bend to it and like actually works based on it. Like, you know, you'd have like the proper reactions and stuff like that. It's like, whoa, 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 this is going on, type of thing. But again, it depends on the world that the person's made. Oh, are you new to Birdo? That's a whole rabbit hole. And again, like, it all falls into like like where you're going with the story as well. Like if the story is just pure comedy, then world building and all that doesn't matter at that point, because it doesn't matter what happens, because you can just bullshit it away, or make whatever happen. So there's no real logic to it other than whatever base ground rules you established. You knew Birdo, but never put thought into it. Oh yeah, because Birdo was a Doki Doki character. Before everything else happened. And then technically, Birdo's one of the first trans characters in video games. Or might be the first, technically. Unless you count Poison. Yeah, especially in that weird moment in the game, Captain Rainbow. Well, I wouldn't really say it was weird. It was just like a moment where they're like trying to emphasize that Birdo is trans. Because it's either Birdo is trans or Birdo is cross-dressing, but often Birdo is, acting like a woman, so I would lean more towards being trans. Makes more sense. It does make sense given the legacy of the character at this point. I mean, they did, but they're kind of like iffy about it because they kind of don't want you to know about it in English. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's like, yeah, it's Vivian's trans, but we're barely gonna tell you, or you have to look it up yourself to know if that's true. Because usually in the English versions, they always are like super vague on stuff like that, whereas in the Japanese version, they're just super direct and just pretty much tell you that that's the case. But Vivian came way later. Yeah, it just sucks when they think that the West wouldn't be into that stuff, and so they like try to be vague and hide it, when they should just have the balls to just say what it is. And if people don't like it, they can leave. Like, nobody's forcing them to play games like that or interact with stories like that. You shouldn't have to tiptoe around it just because of... Obviously, the reason is always going to be money, but if you're trying to tell a story, you shouldn't be tiptoe around it just because you're afraid of how sensitive people will react. Hell, if I listened to people who said, like, oh, you shouldn't be drawing fat characters, fat is not attractive, blah 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 blah, then we wouldn't have, like, 80% of the shit that I have. Okay, maybe not 80, it's a little bit less than that, but still. It's not even a cultural difference, it's just certain people basically tell other countries, or Japan in this particular case, that, oh, the West don't like that. And that's why we're stuck with some of the games that we've had over the last decade or so, where it's a specific group of people telling Japan and other countries that the West doesn't like certain things and purposely changing them. And then when the West finds out, we're like, dude, what the fuck? That was a better idea. Why the fuck did you change it? Or why is it that all of our games are getting censored? Even for, like, the most small thing. Like, for example, in Fire Emblem, there were scenes where that will, like, the characters' outfits would be, like, just a little bit more skin showing than normal, and they would censor that with either longer cloth or like a big bright light in front of the character, which ironically makes it look more risque than it actually was. But still, it's like we're getting censored content just because certain people don't like it and they don't want us to have it. They're not letting us decide for ourselves whether or not we want that content. They're just choosing for us. That's the issue. So it's not even a cultural difference, it's just people bullshitting. It's kind of like what happened with Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, where the dialogue is changed because certain people wanted to make it all political when Dragon Maid has nothing to do with it. So yeah, that's what pisses me off, is when we're getting censored or changed content because of other people's opinions rather than the creator. And coffee, your tits are way too big compared to your normal art. But yeah, if there is anything that pisses me off more, is censorship. Like, I didn't realize how much stuff we were actually missing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Until I watched it in Japanese. And then I was like, wait. And then I read the manga, and there was even more changes. Granted, the changes between the anime and the manga are two different things, but when it came to, like, the actual content that was being censored when it came to the West, then I was like, what? Because it's like, oh, we can't let characters die, we'll make up this place called the Shadow Realm, which, you know, became the infamous thing where people go when you don't want to kill them, sort of thing. Or, like, you know, the constant meme joke. But ultimately that doesn't even exist in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just straight up death. Oh yeah, the Love Hana stuff. It's interesting because the creator for Love Hana is working with the government in Japan and trying to, you know, not have stuff get censored. Or whatever bullshit that's been happening with manga. because I think he became, I forget what his role was. I'll have to look it up again later. But yeah, that was like a thing he was doing for some time now. He's been in that position for a few years now. Can give Coffee a slightly different outfit than normal. That way she doesn't have to wear the same thing. We'll give her the same bra though. But yeah, like I understand the censorship itself, but not the reasoning behind it. Where it's like, oh, okay, this character's naked, we'll add a glow or something to prevent that character from being naked. Sure, I guess, but then when you realize that the content wasn't made for kids and it's being changed to be made for kids, then it just gets confusing. Because like, well, children is a bigger audience, yes, and you know we want them to spend money. Okay, that's where you lose me because kids don't have money. So now you have to convince the adult. And if the adult does any fucking research, then they'll be like, oh, hell no. Depending on who it is and the scenario and blah blah blah. So back to people complaining about me drawing SSBBWs remind me of the comic you did. Oh, that was a whole other conversation. That was more of like the direction of where I was going with certain comics, or it was basically one of those scenarios where you literally can't please everybody, and so you should just do your own thing. And if people like it, they like it. And if they don't, they don't. Just accept it, sort of thing. But like, also, don't completely ignore criticism, because there's always going to be at least something to grasp from it. But also, like, don't take everything to heart. It's one of those things. Yeah, I never had an allowance as a kid. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and granted, everybody's different, but it's just one of those things where it's like, the people that you're trying to convince to buy your shit is the adults. Kids will like anything they're not supposed to like, or anything that's trendy. Like Five Nights at Freddy's, for example. That was literally not a kid's game. And look where it is. But yeah, ultimately, when it comes to censorship, I wouldn't have too much of a problem with it if I didn't know that the reason why it was even happening in the first place is just because of some random person's opinion, or not even opinion, just stance of not liking something, and then telling the creator or whoever's in charge of the product of the series that the West wouldn't like it or that it's bad in some way, and convincing them to change it when realistically we wouldn't give a shit. It's like, tell the story you want to tell. I think that interfered with one of the games. I think it was Dragon Quest, where certain abilities would only work on the whatever gendered class that you were using, and it actually affected one of the moves or something like that, and it like made the game buggy because it wasn't designed to work the way it was. No, it was fucking Smash Brothers. That's what it was. I guess on the Switch 2, they got rid of the genders for the Miis, and that affects the Miis in Smash Brothers Ultimate because they do have genders in that version, and so if you use them on the Switch 2, it crashes it because that's a fucking thing. Tired of the term Gooner. I feel Gooner is a term that is just completely unnecessary compared to most other newer terms that have come around the last few years. It's just like a really... it's not... Like, cringe is not the word that I want to use, but it falls into that. It just sounds really... It just makes you sound stupid. That's just like the tone that I get from it. And the only other instance of it sounding fine is in the Meat Canyon animation where it actually makes more sense because of the context of the animation. That's like the only time it was actually sounded fine. Yeah, I saw the trailer. Brain rot? Maybe. But even brain rot gets kind of overused and loses its meaning rather quickly now. Or pretty much did immediately. Because anything can be technically brain rot. But it just feels like a term people just like picked up and then used it for everything. So it's not even like brain rot, it's just people being dumb and just like discovered a new word. It's kind of like when people learn the word dopamine, and then you just suddenly hear every fucking person saying that for like every little situation that happened. It's like, damn, did everybody just open up a fucking dictionary? I think the only one, not the only, but like one of the words people use with a different meaning is like base. Like base is fine. Can get a bit spammy, but the use of it seems to fit most of the time. And it doesn't feel like just an automatic like word vomit type of thing. It's kind of like how people use degenerate. Degenerate's weird because that's been around forever, and like in a typical conversation, it gets used when certain people think that, oh, this person's looking at risque stuff, they must be a degenerate, blah 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 blah. But then there's like situations where people will use degenerate as part of an argument, and it just makes them sound stupid because they don't like that person or something, or whatever the context of that discussion is, and it just sounds more like you're just losing the conversation, so you default to the word degenerate, which makes you sound dumb. It's like you couldn't think of anything else, so you just defaulted to the most basic bitch phrase that you could say for the conversation. And it doesn't help your side, it just makes you sound like a whiny bitch, I guess, would be the best way to put it. But again, this is all contextual. Like, it all depends on what started that whole conversation and where it's going and all that. All your bases belong to us. But yeah, I mean, all these words, it just highly depends on how they're used. But a lot of the times it just feels like people learned about a new word and just spam the hell out of it, even if the context they're using it for doesn't make sense. It's almost like my friend's daughter. She incorporated bra into her freaking vocabulary now, and she says it like every other sentence. And I just sit there going like, what the fuck? Granted, she's like 9, but still, well, she'll be 10 soon, but still. I was just kind of like, well, gonna have to deal with that for a while. Well, lolcow is there's a little bit more to it. It's not only just people who don't know how to communicate online. It's more like they can't handle feedback to a degree where they have to respond to literally everything that happens, and that's where it gets worse and worse and worse. Because they'll constantly say, "Okay, I'm done with the internet," and then like less than 24 hours later, they're back talking on the internet again, and not like they'll eventually realize that them being on the internet and them responding is a bad thing, but they don't do anything to help it. They just keep it going, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And then there's like other contexts of other events going on, like them doing something stupid or lying about something and getting caught. It's like an extreme rabbit hole. People use it to mean weird individual. Sometimes, at least from my stance, I don't see it used that often for that. But I can definitely see it. We'll fix that in a bit. Yeah, I don't like that. But yeah, it's like people will see a word being used, they'll think they understand it fully, and then use it, and then it just loses all meaning after like 2 weeks. Because people didn't understand the use of it or didn't understand the context, and then it just becomes a pointless phrase. Or word, technically, but it becomes part of pointless phrases. Yep, coffee. I'll give her a chubby belly later. I'm just drawing her that way, so that way I know where everything is. The Siggy clued me in. Actually, let me change that hand one more time. I don't think I have to change it. I just have to change the pose. There you go. So, welcome to Cold Gossip. Get your shit and get out. It's like, we're having a sale today. Get the fuck out. 100% free. I literally had coffee for breakfast this morning. Oof. Yeah. Yeah, going through the day without eating is a struggle. I should probably save. That would be a smart thing to do. And I have been drawing this for about an hour, so yeah, I should probably save. Favorite Pokemon is Nidoqueen. Gonna be a long week this week. Team members on holiday all week, and it's financial year, and oh god. No gaming as well due to needs to be on holiday too. Bloody there, they enjoy living their lives. Well, good time to learn how to draw. Just saying. It's always funny when you realize how big Pokemon actually are with their natural sizes. Like, Charizard's not that big at all. And yet in the anime they make him look like he's huge. And it's like, he is not that big. I don't need to show Oliver. Let's go that bring it down. I just like Nidoqueen's design. Because I would say my favorite before Nidoqueen was Mew. But then I drifted more towards Nidoqueen. I just liked her more. And then I pretty much cherry pick and have like a favorite in each gen for different reasons. Oh yeah, it's like, here's Charizard, full-size dragon, not actually a dragon. It's like, wait, what? Like, sir, he's not actually a dragon. Wait, what do you mean he's not a fucking dragon? He looks like a dragon, roars like a dragon, blows fire like a dragon, flies like a dragon. How the fuck is he not a dragon? I know, right? It sucks what happened to Wailord. They had to nerf the shit out of his size in the games. Like he still has the same, or it still has the same size measurements, but when you play it or send it out, it's like the size of you, or maybe a little bit bigger, and that's about it. And you're just like, what is this? It's like Colosseum Wailord was fucking godlike. Like, Pokemon Colosseum was peak when it came to that. Ooh. Let's see here. Let's just tweak this a bit. She's not like perfectly thin. And let's put you back at the beginning. There we go. Oh yeah, that version of Wailord. That was random. Yeah, let me tweak this. That. Yeah, that was a fun time, just drawing something that random. Well, aside from her ass having a thong, put her in like a skirt. Let's curve that more. I think I've seen that comic. Been a while. Fix this. I could totally see Jam and Coffee getting stuck on an elevator and just totally hating each other. Coffee being like, "Get your fat ass out of my way." He's like, "My ass is not fat." It's like Miss Thunder Thighs, like they're just completely like talking shit on each other when it's almost 100% the same thing. Like they have their differences physically, but the insults that they come up with don't work. Like I could see Coffee and Jam getting into like giant arguments and stuff like that, and then Raz is like, "Why don't you two just fucking get it over with?" And then Plum would be like, "That would be so hot right now." And then Coffee and Jam would be like, "What?" give her a skirt this time around. I imagine the logic of thick thighs save lives is like someone was about to like die or something, and then they just see someone with just gorgeous thick thighs, and they just kind of like want to keep living just to keep experiencing that. They're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, my life was bad and all, but kind of want to keep looking at these. And possibly lay on them. Or get your head crushed by them. You know, whatever comes first. Literally like French fry from Chicken Nugget going like, summer of thickness, baby. Lord help Plum if she ever goes to a beach with her siblings and coffee. Eventual beach episode. I mean, that's just Coconut's story anyway. Is the beach episode, or beach story. Wrong button. There we go. That is not the button. Jesus. There we go. I mean, that's a pretty good reason to want to keep going. It's like, man, I thought life had no meaning, and then I just saw, let's just say woman, for example. Then I just saw this woman with the most gorgeous thighs. I mean, they were huge, but not in like a bad way. And then they find out that person just lives like down the street from them, and they just kind of hang out, whether it goes romantically or not, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just there for the thighs. Just be like, damn. And that's just the thighs we're talking about. If we're talking about any other aspect, then that's just pushing it over the edge. We're like, damn, kind of want to keep going. It's like the logic when you see like the perfect BBW size for your own preferences, and you're just like, damn. Or for people who are ass people, the perfect ass. Like, you don't want to go out seeing the perfect ass, and it's like, come on. And we can expand on that story if we want, but keep it simple. Supermom versus girlfriend from the line at KFC. No. See, the thing is, the girl in the front of the line at the KFC, she's friends with the supermodel, and the supermodel wants to hook her up, and that's when you come in. It's not a versus, because you'll find out that they're friends. And then at that point, it's up to you to not fuck it up. I like how I said I was gonna put Coffee in a different outfit, and all I did was take off her jacket and put her in a skirt and give her some thigh highs. Everything else has been the same so far. I could give her like another arm bracelet, but that's about it. Nothing else really needs to change. God damn it, keep pressing the wrong button. Yeah. Like I could, but I kind of like the asymmetrical look. Or what I mean by kinda, clearly do. I could put another belt on her thigh. Might as well, it's not like I'm making a comic at the moment. And it's not difficult. No, this is just how coffee dresses. Bit more of a pinch. Oh, you found it. Shouldn't have been too hard. I try to label everything the best I can. But she's already has a belt on her tail. I just haven't drawn her tail yet. Alarms. Move her over a bit. little too big. Her tail is thick, but not that thick. Again, stuff like that falls on depending on the characters. Because if you do it for everything, then it just takes away the appeal. For me personally. That's why I like to change it up per character, and not just do the same thing. Or the worst thing I could do is overdo it with jewelry, and like completely cover them when it's unnecessary for a certain character. Like for example, it would make sense to cover Marcy and a ton of bracelets and jewelry and stuff like that. Even if it was just like some random situation where she would be wearing all that for like a photo or something, it just seems out of place. If like drawing it randomly for like a random pic, sure, I guess maybe, but even then it still wouldn't fit. It wouldn't feel like it fits the character. So it's like it's not so much like anything would be preventing me from drawing something like that. I just don't feel it would be right for the character. Because you don't want to just throw on random stuff on every character just because. You want to actually make it make sense. Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, let me bring him up. Where are you? You being here, I believe. Lists, others. Like Nabarasha, for example, he's covered in jewelry and gold and stuff like that because he's a collector. Like, he's wearing armor that literally has like pocket dimensions of all of his collectibles, and some of which he's wearing and stuff like that. Like, he makes sense to be blinged out. Like, it would make less sense for him to have less on him. Like, it'd be interesting if I took, like, if he did have like less jewelry and stuff on him, that he'd be like super paranoid about his collection going missing or something. But yeah, like characters like him would make more sense because he looks like, well, one, he's a god, so the whole royalty angle would fit him. But yeah, it's like characters like him make way more sense to have all that stuff on. But yeah, you gotta learn to be conservative about some of that stuff, because if you keep doing it over and over and over and over, it kind of loses meaning, or like becomes harder to top that kind of idea or satisfy that idea, because you've been doing it for so long that it no longer does it for you. And then you start overdoing it, like you put even more jewelry on because you think it's better, and then so on and so forth. It's kind of like it's again, I mean, it's like with weight gain, you gotta find that sweet spot, and then you gotta like not overdo it, or else you lose the fun. But again, this is different for everybody, so what may work for me may not work for you, and so on and so forth. Any female examples? Probably Yorjadoth. Let me see if there's any that I can actually show. Voldoza. Where would that be if I did have an example? I haven't really drawn a lot of the royalty characters. There's only been like or divine characters that would fit that angle. Because a lot of them are either naked, or I just haven't drawn them. Or I've already shown them, like Yorjadoth and Valgara. Stacks are knife pie. Exactly. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I prefer to do it based on the character and not just for the sake of doing it. Like, even if I was gonna draw like pinups of the characters, I would at least want the character to make it look like it'd be something the characters would actually wear. Like Marcy, for example. Marcy would likely just wear like a full-on bikini because Lord knows a one piece ain't gonna do it for her, and that shit's gonna burst off if she goes to the buffet. Blake would be wearing a two-piece as well. Few characters would be wearing one pieces, honestly. Two pieces just looks better personally, but I can definitely make it work for whoever I feel fills the role. Like Alara would likely wear a one piece. That or not wear a bikini at all, because she wouldn't feel it wouldn't feel right for her. She'd probably be anxious about it. And then her big sister would probably talk her into wearing one, or at least putting something on to have fun. Of Vagara. Let me grab her. This is an old picture of her, though. It definitely needs to be updated. Yeah, this character. Like, she's royalty, but she's not like blinged out because she's a insect. She just has a bit of armor on her because she actively goes out to battle. And she, you know, eats her victims, so. And she's like the main villain of another story. She was in a collector's set recently. Speaking of which, I'm almost done with the current collector set that I'm gonna put out. I just gotta finish one variant. So I'll have that out later today. Okay. I could see Coffee wearing rings, but not right now. You know what? Let's fix your hands. That was like another thing I missed from older games and storylines when characters got mechanized and turned into cyborgs or machines or something because they either almost died or got brainwashed or something. Like we don't really see that too much anymore. And not to like a degree where it's like the character like looks like drastically different or just like unsavable. That was like a weird thing that happened in Sonic Lost World. It's like Tails was able to prevent his own brainwashing, but then they still made him look like Masked Man from Earthbound. And I was like, okay, so he's a cyborg? Is he not a cyborg? Did they just put armor on him? Like, what are we doing here? And obviously they just put like a bunch of armor and stuff on him, and that was about it. But it was like a sad cop out. I was like, damn, we could have had a boss fight between Tails and Sonic, and then they just bitched out on it in the last minute. Actually. Yeah, we just don't see that stuff anymore. It's like, even though we have horror movies and body horror or whatever, a lot of it just kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't hit that sweet spot for me anymore. And it could be just because of how a lot of companies use CG to do it all, so it kind of is less impactful. Or, you know, obviously they just don't do it anymore and they kind of leave it up to like human-esque horror where everything has to be humanoid. And it can't be like some kind of eldritch horror type of scenario. It's like if when you watch The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, it's just, is it John Carpenter? Is that the, why am I blanking out on that for some reason? Let me check. Yeah, it is John Carpenter. For some reason it just didn't sound right. But yeah, it's like we don't really see that anymore. Or if we do, it's like watered down heavily. Especially what they did to the prequel of The Thing. Every time I look up HD remasters of SA1, I always get stuff from the Deadly Six game. The Deadly Six were such a... what's the word I'm looking for? Boring set of characters. And they didn't make sense. It's like, okay, we're making demons, and for some reason they can control machines. And I'm like, what? It's like they gave them the most bizarre ability to have. And it didn't even fit them. And only like 2 characters out of the group were even likable. Forklift certified demon, yeah, pretty much. That's literally the case. It's like they were demons that could control machines, and in order to control them, you need a fucking magic conch. Like, no joke. That is literally their story. Or their lore, at least. I was just like, what? It's like they didn't want to put in characters that could actually do that and make sense. Like, even the Iron Queen from the Archie comics didn't make much sense about having that kind of ability. He's like, okay, she's a technomancer. And I'm just like, sure? It makes even less sense when you have very few characters in the Sonic world that have to do with machines. Because at least in the Archie comics and later IDW, there's like more mechanical based characters or machine based characters. But in the games, it's like you have like 2 characters. You have Metal Sonic, and then you have the Badniks that Robotnik makes. That's it. And I guess Sage now. So if anything, the Deadly Six showing up now would probably make a little bit more sense because of Sage, because in the comics with the Iron Queen, she could control Nicole and turn Nicole into Iron Nicole, and she became like this whole thing where, because of her abilities, she basically kept the villagers captive because their village was made of nanites at that point in time. So Nicole was like a definite threat when she was being controlled. So that made sense, but in the context of the games, you got like 2 characters. What is this for? And then it's like, oh, it's so that the demons can control Robotnik's fleet, so now they're using them against you. I'm like, that doesn't change anything for Sonic. It's literally the same situation. Like, nothing changed. And it's not like you're playing as Dr. Robotnik, so there's no change in gameplay. They're trying to be like Mario with a game that already has fucking stupid ideas. With Mario, there's been practically no real differences at all. Like, even some of the enemies pretty much remain the same, with like a little bit of a difference, but it's like essentially the same characters. They just look different, or slightly touched up. But with Sonic enemies, it's like, okay, every level has literally unique characters, at least until you get to the modern games where they, you know, spam the same base enemies at least. But again, with like controlling machines, that doesn't make sense when it only affects 2 characters. And again, 3 if we count Sage, but who knows if we're gonna have like the same situation with Sage that we did in the comics with Nicole. So yeah, it's just one of those reasons where like it makes more sense to bring in more characters from the comics into the games, because then you get a lot more fleshed out world, and then you also can have bigger scenarios like that. Because there are so many other characters that can be focused on. And it's kind of weird that Tails has not had another game since the Game Gear. You think Tails would have a new game by now? Or even Knuckles. Although I will give Knuckles some slack, because trying to expand on Knuckles lore is incredibly hard now because of the whole Ken Penders thing. But even so, like, you can do something with him. Even if you can't dive into the whole Echidna stuff anymore, or at least not as deeply as you would like, he should at least have a new game. And especially Tails. Tails should also have a new game by now. Yuzhan Vong, Star Wars, New Jedi Order. I'll have to look. It sounds familiar. I'll have to look into that just in case. Moby and Oni. I mean, it honestly doesn't matter whether they're Mobian or not. They're just characters that don't really do anything. And again, like, their lore doesn't make sense. It's like they have those abilities, but what were they for? Like, did it matter in the context of their situation, and why does a magic conch control them? Alright, so I've been working on this long enough so we can get into coloring. Again, it's just one of those situations where it's like you design characters and then just kind of threw in extra bits that didn't fit the characters. Just like, oh, we're gonna make them betray Dr. Robotnik. It's like, okay, but how? And then they were like, they can control his robots. Okay, but how does he keep them from doing that? He can control them with a magic conch. And I'm like, what? But yeah, you could just kind of tell it was like a half-assed idea, which equally fit the gameplay, because it's like, oh, here's a Sonic game, but we're gonna put a run button. It's like, what do you mean a run button? You mean the thing that we always do with him just by pushing forward? We're gonna make that a button? And Sonic was just hella slow in that game. Because, like, even Game Gear Sonic felt faster than Sonic Lost World. And then the sad part is they put in that crossover with Zelda for Sonic Lost World, when that would have been amazing for like almost any other game after that. Especially if it was for Frontiers, that would have been an amazing idea. Exactly, it's like the magic content spoken. Devoted to expanding Knuckles. Oh yeah, a lot of fans have gone deep into Knuckles lore. Nah, Trip is just a looser version of Knuckles. Because in the comics, they explain that she's basically a guardian like Knuckles, but she didn't lose her entire clan. And she's just not taking her job seriously until Knuckles kind of explains things to her, you know, that she has to be there for her clan. And yeah, she like decides to try to work a little bit harder to be a proper guardian. So she's literally just a watered down Knuckles. And plus, Sega can still use Dulcie anyway, so it doesn't matter. If she was going to be like an improved version of Dulcie, they could literally just use Dulcie. I know I have some friends who really want Fang the Sniper to have his own game. Yeah, like a lot of Sonic characters could literally have their own game just to expand their personal lore without having it to be like Sonic focused, and it would probably be better. So that way, later down the line, when Sonic does have to do something major and all those other characters can be put in, you don't have to go through this whole spiel about how the characters can be better for themselves or grow as a person type of thing. Like, you don't have to do any of that because you already did in previous games. And granted, not every character is going to learn a lesson immediately type of thing, but they can at least have a moment to show that they're trying to grow or can grow. And you can make the game short. They don't have to be ultra long or anything. It's just know what you're doing. Like, you can easily have a game with Whisper versus Fang the Sniper, or just have a game with Fang the Sniper going treasure hunting and stuff, or bounty hunting. Like, there's so many different ways you can go about it, and it always feels like we're like, given the situation we are in with a lot of game characters or old properties and stuff, it always feels like we're always going to get the watered down version, because none of them are ballsy enough to go further with the idea. We're always going to get the like 60-70% of an idea. And again, that kind of just falls into the whole, if you want something done right, do it yourself type of scenario. Because you know the companies aren't going to do it, so you might as well just do it yourself. You might get those rare instances where they actually do go crazy and actually do something cool, and it's like epic and stuff like that, but most of the time it's just going to be the safe route. That'd be the best way to put it. They're always going to go the safe route. It's almost like this almost like applies to horror games too. It's like there's always going to be a situation where it's like, oh, here's a scary game, but then it's like not that scary. What the hell? I forgot to fill that in. Where it's like it's literally supposed to be a horror game, but then they like censor anything violent or they do it off screen, or they like prepare you for the jump scare before the jump scare happens in some games. Or like they think that the scariest thing is just to have something like jump scare you like several times in a row and not give you like a breather moment. Because that doesn't fall into Five Nights at Freddy's, at least not the earlier games, because jump scaring in that game was usually the fail state. Like that was when you lost, not like doing it in the middle of the game. It's different when it comes to like the whole roaming around thing, like in Security Breach and Secret of the Mimic, because you are actively moving around and things are going to like jump out at you or fall in front of you type of thing. But well, in Security Breach, that game was barely scary, if at all, because you were never put in a horror and violent environment. But yeah, it's always gonna feel like we're gonna get watered down versions of a story, because they don't want to take the chance of it having a lower audience or something. Even though they go out of their way to make it seem like the stories are more mature than what they're presenting it as. It's like, oh no, this character almost died, and then they don't really touch on that. It's like literally there for like a shock value type of thing, and then it's over. Or it's like, oh, this character has a new form, what are they going to do with it? Absolutely nothing. Censorship rant. I already went through that earlier, too. Like this idea I have for Amy and more traditional multi-character switching platformer. She, Green Bunny, and Dulcie. See, the only problem with that idea of having an all-girls team is that it's an all-girls team. And unfortunately, very few developers want to make a all-female team, because they think that, okay, there's two ways this is looked at. They think that men won't play it, even though men will definitely play it, and then they try to focus too much on female players when there's not enough of them, unfortunately. Like, let's just be realistic here, there's not enough female players. There are female players, don't get me wrong, they exist, there's just not that many. And then if they focus too much on like the, I guess, female perspective, makes sense to say, I guess, if they focus too hard on that, then it alienates the other side of the men who are interested in it. And it's just like a weird double-edged sword. It's almost like what they did to is it Dragon Age Avowed? Is that what I'm thinking of? It's almost like that scenario where they tried to make it super focused on gender identity and it completely lost the plot. So if you're ever gonna make like an all-female Sonic game, you gotta really understand your audience at that point, because Sonic fans would be interested in that, but you have to know how to handle it. And lore would definitely save that game's ass if they were to make a game like that. Like, focus heavily on the established lore, whether it be IDW, the games, or if you can, whatever properties you're allowed to use from the Archie comics and older cartoons and all that. Like, definitely go off of that. Make a female villain. Don't have them fight Dr. Robotnik, because you don't want it to just be a repetitive scenario where it's just like, oh look, it's the same Sonic game, only that you're fighting with the female characters instead. It's like, no, you want to give them something that they can say is their own, like they have their own villain. So definitely do that. Let the characters be themselves. Don't like make them go out of role, because that's technically already happened in the IDW comics, where certain characters have taken up roles that they didn't originally have, like Amy kind of falling into Princess Sally's role more and more over time. And granted, Amy doesn't need to be the love-struck, always chasing around Sonic type of character, but you definitely need to figure her out and understand, you know, where is she going in life type of thing. Cream, yes, Freedom Fighter. If that was the best way to introduce the Freedom Fighters, well, no, the Freedom Fighters, the best way to introduce them is having their own game and be a faction. Like, you could do like a whole world faction thing, go and liberate areas that have been taken over by Robotnik. You can do that, but with an all-female Sonic team, depending on who you pick to be like the main team members, that's where you gotta focus on. Yeah, exactly. If we ever get a Freedom Fighters game, that'd be the best way to do it. Just make it almost like kind of like Fire Emblem, or even like Final Fantasy Tactics. You could do it like that. You could do it an RPG way, like Sonic Chronicles did, only just make it better. Just go off of like either Yakuza or Persona. Just do a Persona style. That would be a lot better, honestly. Yeah, like there are plenty of ways to go about it. It just heavily depends on how the developers go about it, because if they fuck up, then everyone's going to think that nobody wants a female Sonic game or a female-led Sonic game. And it's going to boil down to like, no, we do want this. You guys just don't know how to make a good game or make a good story around it. It's super complicated when the fans know more than the developers, and that's like the biggest problem when it comes to Sonic games, is where the fans are super devoted to the series more than the developers. And it is extremely frustrating. Because the fans have come up with so many good ideas over the years. But we know that a lot of it is never going to come up or never get used for various reasons. Like when it comes to Knuckles, we understand. We understand that the bullshit with Ken Penders is always going to be a thing, and there's not really much we can do about that. Unless we just make lore around Knuckles and not about Knuckles or his clan. That's pretty much all we got when it comes to Knuckles. But Freedom Fighters, just make a fucking RPG like Persona. Not hard. It's amazing that they haven't done that with Sonic characters ever since gaining the ability to make Persona-style games. We'll do that. Like, seriously, a Persona-style Sonic game would be the shit. And hell, you could even have it where Vanilla is an unlockable character, like a secret character. You can make it non-canon or canon depending on how you go about this, making sure that the other characters are unaware that Vanilla is like a badass. But if you just make it non-canon, then that's fine too. But yeah, like people would love that if you do it right. Or even better, you could have it be canon where Vanilla does show up and become a badass, but just make her wear a fucking mask, like a Persona mask or something, or whatever Whisper has, and just make her wear a mask, make her wear like a slightly different outfit to be less noticeable. And then there you go. You could have Cream being like, "Oh wow, this person looks so amazing," and like Vanilla's like, you know, trying not to let it out that it's her. And then there you go. Yeah, you could do that too. Pirates in Hawaii, that would work. Like, there's several ways they can go about it. It just boils down to execution and how much do they give a shit about character development and lore. Because that's like the other thing that sometimes hurts Sonic games, where they'll throw in a bunch of shit, but then like the story and lore is just garbage, like Sonic Forces. It's like they built up Infinite to be really, really, really cool, but then when you play the game, Infinite is just a whiny bitch. It's like, damn, you made him really cool, and now he's just a boring character. It's like, oh, what's his deal? Oh, he got his ass kicked by Shadow. And that's it. That's literally his whole thing. Oh yeah, I missed that bar for sale. I'll grab that later. At least in the comics, there's a little bit more to him than that, but that's essentially it about his character. He is what Ghost is to Kamen Rider. Yeah, Ghost was so much more interesting when he first showed up in the Kamen Rider Drive movie. He was spooky, he was creepy. He kept appearing and disappearing because, you know, he's a fucking ghost. But then when you got his actual show, it was nothing similar to that. They were essentially two different characters. And sometimes that happens often in Kamen Rider, where they introduce a character before they like 100% know what their story is about. But I would have just like figured out the character beforehand. I was like, what are you guys doing? Why are you like trying to figure out the character before you before you even, or why are you using the character before you figure them out? It's like what happened with Gotchard. When they first introduced Gotchard, he had alchemy, and he was able to just touch things and make alchemy happen. Then you watch the actual show, and he doesn't learn it, and then alchemy ends up becoming magic. So the show isn't even about alchemy anymore. And granted, their whole premise of alchemy in that show has always been like, this isn't alchemy, this is magic, because they don't understand the difference somehow. And then when he did learn it, it wasn't even that big of a deal anymore. Or he technically didn't even learn it, he just had the ability to just do things. So he went through all that and didn't even learn alchemy. He just basically learned magic. Speaking of IP holders being radically different, Disney characters, America, most people view Mickey Donald as generic characters when you're there. Oh yeah. Because unfortunately, a lot of characters like the Disney characters, people keep holding in this whole like, oh, they have to be wholesome, they have to be happy type of thing. That's why in Kingdom Hearts they had such a hard time using Mickey for Kingdom Hearts 1 because they weren't allowed to change his appearance. He wasn't allowed to really do anything. And the most they could do is just have him hold his Keyblade and say a few lines because Disney was unsure of how Kingdom Hearts was going to go at the time. And so Mickey was like the only one that they weren't really allowed to do anything with. Then it blew up, and so they allowed Mickey to be more flexible. But like beforehand, you had that one short with Runaway Brain, where it shows Mickey being vicious, and it was awesome. And then they pussed out on it later down the line and tried to pretend it didn't happen. Even though they sell merch of the character of Evil Mickey. It's like, we're gonna pretend this didn't happen, but we're gonna still try to make money off of it. And I'm like, what? Then just acknowledge it exists. It's not that big of a deal. What are you guys freaking out about? If Shadow's the one who kicked his butt, then why would he have beef with Sonic? This whole crushing symbol of hope. I have no fucking idea. Because when they first did Sonic Forces, Shadow wasn't even there. He just shows up randomly in the middle of a cutscene and then pieces out. And then it's like, because they were like, Sonic was like held captive for like what, a year or something like that, or however long it was. And during that time, Robotnik just kind of took over. And I was like, wait. So without Sonic, every other fucking character, including Shadow, is just fucking garbage. They can't do anything without Sonic, literally. And then they try to say that Sonic was tortured while he was captured by Robotnik, which none of that plays out at all in the story. He has like zero reference to that. And then during one of the cutscenes, Shadow fucking shows up. I think Infinite makes a mention about him for briefly, and then Shadow just pieces out. And that's the end of that until you see him at the end cutscene where he's just kind of there. The whole war thing was stupid. Because they tried to make it look like an Avengers thing, but it was just really fucking stupid because they didn't know how to fucking handle that the whole story or the villains and anything. And then they made the DLC to kind of explain Infinite more by using Shadow, because Shadow was like the key point of that whole bullshit. And all it was that Shadow kicked Infinite's ass before Infinite became Infinite. He was just like a regular wolf soldier guy that Robotnik had hired, in the comics at least. Well, in IDW comics, so it is canon. And he gets his ass kicked by Shadow. And Shadow calls him weak. And then Infinite has this whole fucking existential crisis about being weak, and then that's why he gets experimented on by Robotnik to become the version that we get in the game. That's it. That's his whole fucking bullshit thing. And yes, damn she thick. I never played Kingdom Hearts, so I'll take your word. Well, the stuff with Mickey, yeah, it was just Mickey was limited until he was allowed to be used more. I'm not gonna go into the whole lore of Kingdom Hearts yet, until some conversation arises about it. But yeah, like Infinite was literally just, I'm mad that I got beat by Shadow. That is it. And then when he did get to Phantom Ruby, he didn't really get to do anything with it. He was just like, oh, I'm big now, or oh, here's these red things you gotta avoid, or oh, I'll make a clone version of previous villains that don't really do anything because they're clones. They're just kind of there. Again, I think Forces was trying to be like Avengers, but just didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They were trying to make an epic out of something that they weren't even ready to do. And the irony is, if they wanted to make like an Avengers-style storyline, then bring in the fucking characters that they were allowed to use, like the, I don't know, the fucking Freedom Fighters. They are literally made for that kind of scenario. And it's like they're trying to build up more characters for the IDW comics and all that. I'm like, cool. Bring in the Freedom Fighter. And granted, a lot of the characters now in the IDW comics kind of take over the roles for the Freedom Fighters now. So it's like you have less and less reason to have them there, which is why you should just use them as another faction now. So that way they can still exist, but they don't have to like stick around with Sonic. They can be their own thing now. Because they kind of already, not retcon, but just like made other characters for the same roles. So just make them a faction. But Viro, we can make our own OCs in the game. Well, yeah, and then those OCs are basically fodder characters. And plus, you're limited. Like you can't make like an octopus character, so there's a limit to that unless you mod it. But yeah, still though, there's just a lot of characters that Sega, or a lot of things that Sega could do with Sonic, but they're being really reserved about it. And granted, a lot of that comes from Ken Penders' bullshit. That's kind of like partially why they're being reserved about a lot of Sonic stuff, because they don't want to have another Ken Penders scenario. But I don't know. I'm obviously ranting, so that's probably just me. People trying to make someone like Mimic. Yeah. And then there's his whole thing. It's like, okay, is Whisper going to kill him, or are we just going to keep like tiptoeing around that idea until we get to a moment where it looks like she's finally going to kill him, but then she's like, no, I'm not gonna do something my friends wouldn't want me to do, blah 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 blah, friendship. You know that's where it's gonna go. If she does actually kill him, I will be surprised. I will be incredibly surprised that they have the balls to do it. Because they killed Starline, at least for now, until we find out he comes back as a robot or something. So it's not out of the question of a character getting killed. When the time comes, I will draw them. Or whenever I feel like drawing them randomly, then yes. Well, like, some of them already exist, like Daylock and Rainbow Passion, but they don't wear too much jewelry or any at all. Like, not every royalty has to wear jewelry. Like, I understand your whole thing about jewelry, but it just doesn't apply to every character. I just wish they would go fuck it and just make Sonic stuff for an older audience. And that's the weird part, is like, a lot of the Sonic stuff only works because of the older audience. Like, the closest they have right now to the younger audience are the movies, but the games don't reflect the movies at all. So they're in this like weird middle ground now, where it's like, cool, we're starting to get the younger audience, but now none of our games reflect that, and they can't just suddenly make the games about that version of Sonic, because that's just gonna piss off the veteran fans. So they're almost at like a stalemate with that, and then they can't like reboot it because then they're gonna be in a Sonic Boom scenario. Like, they literally should just focus on the older fans, because the older fans are the ones making making fan games of Sonic anyway to keep people's interest. Like, literally, the Sonic fans are carrying the fucking series at this point. And granted, Sega has come out with some decent Sonic games over the last few years, but they can't like do what Nintendo's trying to do by always focusing on a younger audience, even though the younger, or any other company, because the younger audience isn't fucking buying the shit. It's their parents. And if a parent has grown up with the series, the last thing they want is for their kid to experience the garbage stuff. It's like, why would I get that when it's worse than the older stuff? It would be like somebody trying to sell me Sonic and the Black Knight, or I could just let my kid or whatever, or whoever play Sonic 3 and Knuckles, or even just Sonic 3 by itself. It's like, I'd rather have them play that than Sonic and the Black Knight. Or Sonic 06. It's like, nah, just play Sonic Adventure, it's better. Oh, you read the annual about Mimic's backstory? Yeah, like, the whole Mimic thing is just like, all it is just like ignoring everything else. It's literally just he betrays his friends, gets them all killed by shadow robot clone things. Whisper gets out of there. She has PTSD, or a little bit about it. Some of it's kind of like worn off on her over time. But like, every time she saw Shadow, she either got into like the super panic mode type of thing, or she attempts to try to kill him. But she understands that Shadow is not the one who killed her friend, so she has no grudge against him. And then every once in a while, she'll come across Mimic, get into a moment where she wants to kill him, and then she's talked down. And then gets him in prison. He might escape, or he did escape already. It's been a while. I have to catch up with the comics. I'm behind by like a few, but I can catch up. I know I can either buy them or read them online, either or. Preferably, I like to buy them. But yeah, it's just kids are not going to get in on. Yeah, it's all based on Metal Gear because they're called Diamond Dogs or Diamond Cutters. But yeah, kids are not going to know any of that if they're only going off of the movie. If they solely go off of the Sonic movie, they're not going to know any of this shit. So yeah, that's why the movie is basically its own continuity. I just think like it's even more clear that they don't know their audience when they made the Knuckles short series based off of the movie. Like, they know nothing about their audience when the show that's called Knuckles is not even about fucking Knuckles. Like, that's a fucking problem. It's like, how do you make a show about Knuckles and have it be not about Knuckles? How did you even do that? What brain virus did you have to ingest in order to make that happen? Well, like, the whole thing with Mimic is that he basically made a deal with Robotnik during Sonic Force's storyline, and it was to like ensure his safety or whatever. So he basically betrayed his group, got them all but Whisper killed, and now there's just like a grudge between Whisper and him now. And every once in a while he'll shapeshift into her friends to kind of fuck with her whenever they're fighting each other, but all it does is piss her off even more. Like, at first she was hesitating, but then now it just pisses her off every time he does it. And she keeps getting she keeps getting in situations where she's like willing to kill her opponent, because like she's fought Surge, and there was like a moment where she took shrapnel from, I think it was her busted gun, and tried to slash Surge's throat. And if it wasn't for Surge having super speed, Whisper would have succeeded. So Whisper is not afraid to kill her opponent. Because I think ultimately she is a mercenary. It was cute though when she was first introduced. She was at like a door that she couldn't open. You just saw her using her weapons in like different forms. I mean, it was really cute when she took out the hammer and she just tried to like wail on the door. But yeah, like her whole thing is that she was around when the Sonic Forces storyline was going on, and that was like her backstory, that she was protecting people from the enemies back then. Yeah, the whole thing with the I want to like the live action Sonic, but they keep making decisions that just don't fit at all. And it's one of those like, what's the best way to put this? It's one of those like by the books children's movie bullshit thing where, like, let's just say they made a live action movie of, I don't know, let's just say Felix the Cat. It's like, we made a live action movie of Felix the Cat. Okay, alright, what's the checklist? Okay, well, he's got to interact with a human character for some fucking reason. Like somebody who mistakes him for like some other animal or whatever. It's going to be a character that has nothing to do with the original Felix the Cat lore, so none of the actual characters or actual human characters that Felix has interacted with in the actual cartoons. We're going to make a bunch of Fortnite jokes because that's what's in right now, or whatever is the hot thing at the time of Felix the Cat's movie coming out. We're going to make it about that. Got to add in fart jokes because reasons, because every fucking kids property or well-known property has to have a fart joke, because Ninja Turtles did it, Sonic did it. Why not? Just throw that in there, because apparently we need to do that. We're gonna throw in a bunch of characters that have nothing to do with it even more. So we'll have one character that has to do with Felix's lore, like the professor, but we're gonna add in like some kooky random person who has nothing to do with it, but we're gonna focus super heavily on this character. We're even gonna give that character their moment where, oh, they're super important to the plot for some fucking reason. We're gonna do that. Like, such as the little girl that gives Sonic his shoes, which make no goddamn sense, because it's like, okay, that means the shoes are not special in any way, so they shouldn't be resisting his friction. But apparently they can, just because. What else? What other checkbox bullshit that most companies do? If we're sponsored by a company, we're definitely gonna have the main character show that off, such as the fucking Dunkin' Donuts thing. Or no, it was Olive Garden in Sonic. So yeah, whatever company that's going off of that, we're gonna do that. So I don't know. We'll talk about Jelly Bellies. Yep, that's our sponsor. So that means Felix the Cat has to have a scene where he's eating Jelly Bellies, or somebody has to mention Jelly Bellies. So gotta throw that in there. And it just feels less and less and less about whatever the property is, and more about trying to focus heavily on kids for whatever reason. And we gotta dumb it down. So whatever was interesting about the series, we're either gonna slowly sprinkle that in the sequels, or we're just gonna ignore it completely. Or even worse, we're gonna overdo it with the special effects. So like with Felix the Cat, oh, he has his magic bag. Well, instead of a bag, we're gonna give him an iPod. Or an iPad. iPod. I mean, shit, the iPod would probably work just as stupidly. But we're gonna give him an iPad, and that's how he selects all his abilities now. Because, you know, a bag is just weird. It's just old and not interesting, so we're just gonna give him an iPad. Jelly Belly. Whenever Poochie isn't on screen, everyone should go, "Where's Poochie?" Right? Or Pookie. The government sell stuff is completely unnecessary. Yeah, it's just, it's like you can tell that whoever got the rights to make the movie or whatever does not know the property at all. And as soon as they start throwing in their own characters, like they did in the first movie and the rest, that's when you know that this wasn't made for Sonic fans. And the only thing they ever do to make it seem like it's for Sonic fans is by making references that only fans would know. But that's it. It has like nothing really to do with them after that. It's like, oh, if we say Shadow, like, if we put in the reference that Shadow likes Latinas, then that'll make the fans like this movie, right? Doesn't make it a good movie, like, but with or without that. But I'm just saying, like, that's how they try to get the older fans into it, is by going off of whatever the current memes are and stuff like that. And that's like the other thing. It's like, oh, what are the kids memes into? Okay, we'll have Felix the Cat do that. So, like, we'll do Grumpy Cat or some shit. Even though Grumpy Cat was, like, what, over a decade old now? But we'll do that anyway. Or we'll do that one meme of the lady screaming at the cat at the dinner table, or at the restaurant. We'll do that with Felix the Cat. Because that's relevant, right? So yeah, it's just this whole thing. I know I've ranted ridiculously long about that. So anyway, yeah. Sorry. I know, I get worked up. I think I'm just super passionate about the stories and characters that I've grown up with, or even like newer stuff that I've come across, that I want the stuff to be good. I don't want it to be watered down or make no sense or, you know, become stupid in the end. It's like, if it was good in the beginning, I want it to stay good, even when it ends. It doesn't need like overly complicated nonsense. And again, like, this kind of spins back to the Mimic for Five Nights at Freddy's. It's like, I really hope the story doesn't just boil down to, oh, the Mimic is the mastermind of everything. All the Freddy's animatronics aren't possessed; they're actually just ruled by AI. And basically everything that made the series cool just goes down the drain because it's all about some random ass AI. And that's it. Like, that's the story. It's like, oh yeah, AI bad. It's like, really? All this ghost talk in the beginning, then going into like immortality and blah blah blah, just boils down to a fucking robot? See, that's what's gonna piss me off if it leads to that. Balloon Boy to be evil mastermind. I'll be honest, that would be just as much as a shitty idea. I know you're joking, but still, if they did that, that would be such a fucking low end. What I think of DuckTales 2017? It was a good show. I like that they acknowledge that it's a alternate universe rather than a reboot. I think that was the smart idea, because that way they don't have to retcon a bunch of stuff. It just sucks that they didn't get to continue it as well as the Darkwing Duck revamp. Like, it sucks when they have like a plan going and then they just suddenly said no. And I'm pretty sure it's because of Bob Iger and whoever else is fucking up Disney currently. Like, Disney has its own problems right now because a lot of people that should not be working at Disney are in charge of Disney. And it's just going to drag the whole thing down until those people get replaced. So, like, Disney is literally in a bad spot until those people are removed. And unfortunately, it's going to be quite a while before that happens. If it happens sooner, I will be surprised. See, the problem is that he should have been gone already. And when he was gone for a brief moment, he was still sitting in on meetings and stuff like that. And Bob Iger is more worried about how he looks to other people rather than how Disney looks to other people. Because it's all about the stuff that he wants and the private parties that he gets invited to and shit like that. And even if he is gone, you know his ass is going to be sitting in there because he's going to have friends who are basically just going to keep listening to him. And that's the problem, is that we literally need to like have nobody associated with Bob Iger in the seats. So until that happens, it's just going to be the same bullshit. And if you don't like it, at least you tried. What companies do you argue is the worst hands, Disney or WB? In terms of making superhero movies, WB, because they're too busy trying to play catch up rather than understanding their own works and making it work. Like having the right people work on it and stuff like that. Because all they do is just reboot and reboot and reboot. Maybe make a sequel or two, but then reboot again because the sequel didn't do right. Or didn't make as much money because they blew so much money on some bullshit thing. And they don't understand, like, the humor. Because they're trying to make their movies like Marvel, but they don't understand why Marvel worked. When it comes to Disney, Disney's screwed on so many other... so many different spots because they're either... What's the best way to phrase it? They're all over the place on what they're trying to do. They're trying to make certain superheroes more woke or more female oriented, which isn't bad on one end, but then when you're not doing it correctly, that's when it makes it look shitty. Because it's like, oh, we want to focus on female superheroes. Okay, cool. But then they always make it about gender. They always make it about, you know, character trying to be a girl boss type of thing. It's like, can't we just have it be about the character? It's like, it's not, this wasn't a difficult thing. Just make the character, make them cool, and then we're done. It's like, this wasn't hard. Like, a lot of, like, because they always think that, oh, men won't support the female characters. I'm like, bullshit. I've been into female characters ever since I was fucking little because they were all cool. Growing up with X-Men, every female character was fucking awesome. Like, what the hell are you talking about? It's just, again, it's more of the wrong people being in charge of shit they shouldn't be in charge of. Because they make it all about them. They make it about, they make whatever movie or project that they're working on, so they're trying to make it be like a statement for some fucking reason. Instead of, you know, what it is, it's a fucking entertainment medium, not somebody's fucking vlog. And that's the biggest problem. It's just the wrong people working on these projects. In fact, it's not even the companies. It's just the people running the companies and the people given projects they shouldn't be working on, or they shouldn't even be there in the first place. And this is the same problem that game devs are having, where they're making games, but then they have people who are somehow in a higher position than them calling the shots, and then it just ruins whatever project that they were working on, because they'll make them make stupid decisions for some reason. It's kind of like how now, right, like currently with a lot of games, it's like all the women have to be chubby and ugly, or fat and ugly for some reason. And it's like, look, I like big characters, big women and stuff like that, or fat women in general. You can still make them interesting. They don't have to be uninteresting or ugly or whatever the case may be. You can make them cool characters if you know what the fuck you're doing. Like, I don't know how we got to such a point where none of our characters can be interesting anymore. Because back in the day, people just made up characters and they were cool. Like, it didn't matter. Yeah, you have your moments like Big the Cat where it's like, okay, here's this slow-ass character doing nothing. But then, every once in a while, people are like, still want Big the Cat around. Because he was silly. And then you find out he was voiced by by the actor that played Duke Nukem, and you're like, no way. And then it's even more interesting about that character. Is he the best character ever? Hell no. But he's still an interesting character that they can just toss in. They didn't like make fun of him because he was like fat or something like that. They just thought he was a goofy character. Relied too heavily on legacy characters like doing an in-universe actor being assholes. Well, the whole point is that DuckTales 2017 is its own universe. It's not in the same vein as the original, because there's an episode where they actually go to the original world. So it's like an offshoot. And yeah, relying too much on the legacy characters such as Darkwing and the Rescue Rangers and all that was more of like they were trying to set up for for their reboots or reimaginings, but unfortunately none of that happened because they got canceled after DuckTales was over and done with. So it's like this weird scenario where you have all this setup but then no payoff. Doofus was made to a psycho like Scrappy. Yeah, that's like a weird situation where it's like, why would you do that to that character? Because they did the same thing to Scrappy, not only in the movie but in the Velma spin-off thing. And in Velma in of itself, that show was just complete garbage. But yeah, basically we're just in a weird situation where a lot of entertainment media is being run by selfish assholes or entitled assholes, and not the people actually creating the content. Like, the people creating the content want their stuff to be cool, but unfortunately they don't get the last say. And sometimes you have to be in situations where things get snuck in order for it to be cool or interesting. But sometimes that doesn't work out because you'll either get caught and changed, or whatever did come out, the company will just pretend it didn't happen or have it removed later on. It's like what happened with Rosalina in the Mario games. It's like, if you look at her lore in Mario Galaxy, it's really fucking interesting, but then it's completely ignored in later games because Miyamoto did not want her to have a story. I mean, you can make the good guys evil, just have a decent enough story to make it make sense. That's pretty much all you really need. Like, you can change things up, you just have to make it be good, and make the context and setup good. Like, it just boils down to presentation and execution. Because it's perfectly fine to make characters evil, just don't make it stupid. Like Scrappy in the original movie, or in the first Scooby-Doo movie, his whole thing was just, oh, I'm evil now because my friends basically ditched me in the middle of nowhere because they thought I was annoying. And then he like peed on one of the characters because they had to add in bathroom jokes because that was the thing. I mean, that's always the thing with these movies. They always have to add in bathroom jokes. But yeah, that was like the problem, was that they were adding in unnecessary stuff. Magic of Dispose, mommy. Yeah, Magica look nice in that show. But yeah, like, overall, it's just a matter of execution. It's like, you can have these ideas that you can make characters good or evil or whatever the case may be, but you got to make it make sense. You can't just randomly throw it in. And if you do throw it in, you got to make it like work in the context of the show itself. It would be like if we took Tails and just made him evil for the sake of evil, with no like context. Like 9 in Sonic Prime made sense because he didn't grow up with Sonic. He grew up on his own, constantly, being harassed and stuff like that. So he was just done with his universe. That makes sense. If they just made him evil and that was it, then either you gotta work on the context for that, or it's just boring. Because like Miles in the Archie comics, the most context we really get with him is just that he's evil Tails because he's from the anti-universe, and there really isn't much else you really need to explain about that. It's just, okay, everybody's morality is flip-flopped in that universe, and that's all you get. But there was like a little bit more to him. Like, he was trying to like take over Anti-Sonic's universe and a bunch of other stuff that was going on during that time. So there's like more to it, like how he changes his name to Miles, because at first he was just Anti-Tails, but Anti-Sonic was like, no, we're not gonna just be the anti characters. We're gonna be our own people. And so there was like this whole thing. But yeah, like just tossing it in there isn't what makes it work. You gotta understand the story. You gotta have like a writer and stuff like that and know where you're going with it. Scooby-Doo 2 is gonna be was gonna be PG-13, but because of Josie and the Pussycats movie bombed. I see. Yeah, I can see that. Make like an actual horror-based Scooby-Doo. Like it doesn't have to be bloody, but can still be spooky. Yeah, if that was the course they were gonna go, then yeah. Evil Marcy says hi. Well, Evil Marcy makes sense because I gave the context of her being a fucking stalker. If I just made her evil without explaining any of that, then that would be a problem. Like, if I just made her evil and didn't explain anything about why she's acting the way she's acting, then that would be a problem for me, because I'd be like, okay, so she just kind of did all this? Like, I at least gave her the lore of being obsessed with Skylar. And why is this not working the way I want it to work? What the hell? Okay, something's wrong here. And I need to find out what. You, why are you not working? Okay, hold on, something's not working. Okay. Why are you not working? There we go. That was weird. Yeah, and a lot of companies do that. A lot of companies will see like the success or failure of another franchise and go from there. A lot of times it boils down to how much money they had already spent on a project and just say, fuck it, we'll just put it out there. Alright, pretty much done with the flat culling for her. I took longer than normal probably because I was ranting so much. But yeah, gonna call it for now. I will stream this again tonight. Oh, excuse me. And get it all finished up. And then, yeah, so I'll probably work on other stuff in between so that way I can crank out more content. I'm definitely going to finish off what I was working on for the collector set, so that way I can put that out as soon as it's ready. All I got to do is draw the big belly and the other stuff that I have for the characters I'm using, and then I'm pretty much done. After that, probably going to work on the Slice of Life picks, and definitely got to work on webtoons. I can either work on that today, tonight, whenever the case may be. But definitely gotta get back to work on that. But yeah, you guys take care, and I will see you guys later tonight. All right.